things you're hearing very clearly about the managed cloud environment is that it takes both leading technologies combined with expertise. And so we have to partner. And you'll hear it from our Yeti from Sarah this morning around these three companies that had to work together. And so one of the things I do want to reiterate, it's the relationships we have with folks like VMware and how seriously we take that connection. We treat that fanatically as well, not just our customer relationships. And so we definitely thank Corey for his time today with us. We are now down to the last presenter here in the main room, and we're shifting to a different perspective, which is from founders. Folks that actually were, I'll let them tell their own story, but were actually, saw a challenge and wanted to help solve it and saw an opportunity to make our lives easier as consumers. And so with that, I'm going to introduce MeterFeeder, which is solving the challenge of handling multiple data sources. What Rackspace specifically does with them is through our data solution area, and it's very specific around MongoDB and ObjectRocket, and they'll share a bit about that as well. And this is an example of a company that is starting out in the cloud. And you might think, well, then they don't really need managed cloud because they get it already. And this is a great example of where even certain workloads and areas of those, their solution, they still needed help from experts. Not in all of it, but in certain pieces. And we've been able to step up and do that. So let's learn a little bit more about MeterFeeder here with a video.
One day we were having lunch with a colleague of ours, and she actually pulled out a parking ticket, and she looked at us and said, oh man, if you guys could actually make an app where I can pay for parking on my phone, I would absolutely use it. My name is James Gibbs, and I am the acting president and founder of MeterFeeder Inc.
At MeterFeeder, we make parking easy for both city governments and for commuters. My name is Dan Lopretto. I'm the founder and CTO.
One of the pain points that it solves for myself is when I'm in a meeting and I have to pay for parking, I don't have to leave the restaurant or I don't have to leave the office or the meeting so that I can pay for parking. So when people first come into the application, we just walk them through, hold their hand step by step to make sure that they're able to park and have absolutely no problem. We use GPS so they know which zone they happen to be in, and they also know which rates that they currently have to pay. So we use MongoDB and ObjectRocket. There aren't very many other companies that have a turnkey scalable solution like ObjectRocket. We just simply created an account, logged in, and we were able to create a replication set in minutes.
We use Node.js on our server side to power our API, and we have the servers running on Rackspace's cloud servers,
which is talking to JavaScript in the database. So MongoDB just seemed like a no-brainer. So now we have the ability to grab actual JavaScript object and just pass it right to the front end, and the front end knows exactly what to do with it.
We've been using Rackspace for a very long time. Not needing to worry about the server infrastructure is really important to us.
I actually started developing software in 1983. And I am a software developer at heart. From a developer standpoint, the only thing that I needed to do was click a few buttons. They gave me the connection string that I could plop directly into the code, and then all I had to worry about is choosing the correct shard key, and I was off to the races. I would absolutely recommend it to my peers. To my competitors, no. I mean, if you think about it, that's our advantage. I don't have to do anything, and it's so cost effective that it becomes an absolute no-brainer for me to just actually go in and just start developing.
All right, well, I know I could use that solution, so why don't you join me in welcoming a founder and president of MeterFeeder, James Gibbs.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. Well, apparently since that video has been taken, I got a promotion. So now I am the co-founder and CEO of MeterFeeder Incorporated. Yeah, what that means in a three-person business, you know. So MeterFeeder is a mobile application that enables users to pay for parking from their mobile device. And so we have the ability to scale to really large cities, you know, Dallas, Fort Worth, Pittsburgh, you know, where we're from. And we also have the ability to go even to the smallest of municipalities. I like to tell this one story where there's, in Pittsburgh, there's this one municipality called Munhall. They have a grand total of 15 parking meters. 14 of them are broken. We still talk to them. You know, we still want to present them with a solution that can bring them into this millennium. I mean, how many people have coins in their pockets? I know I have a wife and 3 kids, one on the way. There's no chance of me ever having any change in my pockets. So our target audience, we have a two-sided business. So think about like Etsy or eBay or Uber. So if you think about if everyone wanted to drive for Uber, but there was no one using it, you know, that wouldn't work out. Or if you wanted to take an Uber and didn't have any drivers, you know, that won't work out either. So we work with the municipalities to figure out their pain points, and then we also want to appeal to the people who park. We consistently hear, actually in Dallas, I feel bad saying this, how people are unhappy with the current mobile parking solution. So if anybody happens to know anyone, feel free to talk to me after this this chat. So one of the things that really strikes us, being a technology company, our competitors are just looking for a way to have people pay for parking. You know, they're not looking at the actual issue that parking creates. You know, 30% of all traffic in the city is people looking for parking. Imagine if we fixed that, you know, like you knew what to do. Anyway, so with that being said, you know, knowing that we have to tackle this huge issue, we don't know all of the questions. And that forces us to make sure that we have to be flexible enough so that when we have the questions, we can answer. So we use Rackspace. The on-demand infrastructure allows us to move into a competitive market and maintain the next mover advantage. So just to interrupt the plans of the bigger multi-billion-dollar corporations that are trying to take us down. So I guess the best way for me to describe this is think about Friendster. You know, think about MySpace. Would you rather be MySpace or Facebook? You know, so it doesn't make a difference if you're the first to market. We're trying to make sure we're the last to market. So our proven security, the proven security with Rackspace is to reassure corporate and municipal clients. So Rackspace, with their fanatical support, they have a culture of correctness. And we also have a culture of correctness. You know, before we submit our code, we make sure that it's linted. We make sure that it's tested. We make sure that when the person gets the app in their hands, it's going to work. So since their culture of correctness meshes with our cultures of correctness, we just fit together like hand in glove. So we have one ubiquitous solution. Our front-end database, our front-end speaks the same exact language as our database, as the video is showing. We use JavaScript for the entire stack. So picture you have a database object that's just JSON. It's JavaScript. It talks to the front end, which is JavaScript. And JavaScript, the front end says, hey, I know what to do with this, and shows you what you need. And in turn, turns back around and says, hey, database, here's some new information. That's in JavaScript. You know, so it's like the whole thing just becomes a no-brainer, you know, like instead of like PHP or Python or anything like that, you, like no matter where you are, you're speaking the same exact language, and that just turns into just a developer dream. So yeah, so we're going to introduce Dan right now. Dan, he's pretty much been sitting in the cubicle next to me for the past 15 years. So yeah, he's the right-hand man. I don't want to rhyme, but you know, this is Dan.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to talk about specific problems that we faced and how we solved those. So we live in an Internet of Things. You know, and then the Internet of Things is about computers talking to computers and finding data for customers. anyway, so we've got the cloud, which we've been talking a lot about today. We've got mobile devices. We've got wearables, all the way down to the car. Your car is transmitting data back to the cloud. Things in your kitchen are telling you when to buy milk. There's so many different points, and our applications now need to request this data from all the resources or receive the data, and then distill that information into something that our consumers can digest. So specifically, an example from us is we consume data from parking lots and garages and street meters. Each of our municipalities that we have, they have their own vendors for how they handle parking. And we need to integrate with those. And each of those vendors has their own pieces of equipment, and they use some equipment in some garages and some equipment in other garages. So it's across the board, the different types of information we're getting from each of these points. And another example is payment providers. We use Stripe, there's Google Wallet and Apple Pay, because we're a mobile device, we offer those services. And PayPal and of course Bitcoin. Now, the results you get from all of those API calls when you take those payments, they all look completely different. Here another example is in e-commerce, where you have analytics and insight, and you're looking at reviews, recommendations, loyalty programs, recognition and retention, A/B testing. All of these are similar types of data that you then need to handle in one method, in one way. So how can a small startup with limited staff, Jim said before, we're a three-man shop, and how can a small company like us, it can feel like shifting sand, needing to deal with all of these different APIs, and they're all very business-critical APIs. Being able to make payments across different platforms is very crucial to our user acceptance. So what do you do with the data that doesn't fit? Do you just get rid of it? In a traditional, I'll go to the next slide, in a traditional structured relational database, you put together what your data is going to look like before you know what all your problems are. On day one of your company, you're like, okay, this is what our data is going to look like, and this is how we're going to solve this one specific problem. Tomorrow, 1 month, you're going to have new problems. And your data isn't going to represent those problems. You're going to get information in those APIs that isn't going to be represented in your database. And of course, you can update your database schema. But what about all of that information you were getting in the past from those same APIs that you just threw away because it didn't fit in your database? So in non-structured data in MongoDB, powered by ObjectRocket, we have a lightweight normalization layer of the data when it comes out of the database. Traditionally, you would normalize the data and put it into your one very rigid structure. We dump that data into the database, and then we normalize it on the way out. It's object-oriented programming. You've got a model, and you inherit that model into a specific model for PayPal and a specific model for Bitcoin. Each of your vendors, each of those technologies, has their own model. So you keep all of this cross-channel data, and it's all still completely searchable. And if you say in a year, we create a new product, we already have all this historical data existing that we can research and use to power innovation and answer new questions. We promote those new pieces of data that we've had all along in our normalization layer, and immediately benefit in this new product as if it had been around for months. So the big lesson learned here is to be flexible about what data you think you need today and what you have available. And don't throw away all that good, wonderful, beautiful data. Keep it in your database, keep it in MongoDB, and you're ready to power future innovations. So thank you very much, everybody.
Where's the chicker? We got last second. There we go. Look at that transition. It's seamless. All right. So that is it for the general sessions that we'll have in this room.